For the better part of 60 years, one rivalry reigned supreme in all of football. That rivalry? The Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Originating in 1950, it stands as the oldest and most storied rivalry in the AFC. It's no surprise these two teams became such bitter foes. Pittsburgh and Cleveland are both blue-collar cities with passionate fan bases, and they are separated by just a quick drive up the turnpike. It really was the NFL's equivalent of Ohio State, Michigan. In the history of the Browns-Steelers rivalry, there have been many memorable moments. There's Joe Turkey Jones slamming Terry Bradshaw on his head, as well as Bill Belichick refusing to shake Greg Lloyd's hand. Because of moments like these, the Steelers and Browns always left a lasting impression on the audience. Both teams always wanted a piece of the other, and they felt like they left it all out in the field. When it came to the fans, it could be just as intense. In the rivalry's heyday, you wouldn't be caught dead in either city wearing the opposing team's jersey. It made for a lot of fun, and as much as both cities despised each other, I think they were both happy to be involved with this rivalry. But not everything lasts forever, right? In 2018, almost no one still considers this to be a rivalry. And it makes sense. Since the mid-90s, the Steelers have completely dominated the rivalry, at one point winning 12 in a row. So when did it exactly end? You will typically hear two answers to that question. The first being in 1995 when the Browns moved to Baltimore. A lot of people think it ended there and a new rivalry was born between the Steelers and the Ravens. Others, like myself, have a different opinion. I believe the Browns-Steelers rivalry died on October 18, 2009. I will spend the rest of this video going year by year, starting in 1999, showing you why I still considered it to be a rivalry, until that fateful afternoon in October of 2009. In 1999 and 2000, the Browns were a struggling expansion team. They would win only 5 games in those 2 years combined. But amazingly, they still found a way to split the season series both years with their arch-rival Pittsburgh. In 1999, it was a last-second field goal by Phil Dawson that sealed the deal for the Browns. In 2000, it was a hard-fought game that went down to the wire and ended up going the Browns' way. During that game, Browns rookie and number 1 overall pick Courtney Brown would record 3 sacks on Steelers quarterback Kent Graham. The game would also get chippy. Steelers linebacker Joey Porter delivered a cheap shot to Browns punter Chris Gardocki. This prompted Gardocki to get up and flip off the Steelers sideline. This would result in a $5,000 fine for Gardocki. This brings us to 2002. That year, the Steelers would sweep the season series, but every game would be decided by just 3 points. And one of those games even went to overtime. The two teams would ultimately meet again in the postseason, and what a game that turned out to be. It was hot and heavy from the beginning. The Steelers wanted to advance to the next round and fulfill their goal of winning the Super Bowl, while the Browns were trying to avoid losing to the Steelers for the 3rd time in one season. The game ended up being a fireworks show. Browns quarterback Kelly Holcomb threw for 429 yards and 3 touchdowns. Steelers quarterback Tommy Maddox also added 367 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Browns dominated most of the game, but had it slip away from them in the final minutes. It would come down to one dramatic play. By 2003, there was some talk that the rivalry had cooled down. When asked if Cleveland-Pittsburgh was still a rivalry, Steelers receiver Hines Ward said, That's more a Baltimore-Pittsburgh thing now than it is Pittsburgh-Cleveland. Kiemel von Oelhoffen echoed the same sentiments. The Browns would not take kindly to these statements, and they responded with a 20-point thrashing of the Steelers on national television. Then came 2004. The second meeting between the two had a lot riding on it. The Browns needed a win to stay alive in the wildcard hunt, while the Steelers needed a win to keep pace with the Patriots for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But before the game could even start, Browns running back William Green and Steelers linebacker Joey Porter would be involved in a pre-game fight. Both players would be ejected from the game, and the rivalry was arguably as hot as it had ever been. – 2006 rolled around, and while neither the Browns nor the Steelers were playing for much, emotions were still running high. During pre-game warm-ups, Kellen Winslow and Joey Porter were jawing back and forth at one another. This would be the start of a personal rivalry between the two that would last about a year. The game at hand turned out to be a classic, and it came down to one final play. Though they had again lost to the Steelers, I found myself hating Pittsburgh even more. Then came 2007. The Browns were off to an incredible start with a record of 5-3. And on November 11, 2007, they traveled to Heinz Field with first place in the division at stake. It would turn out to be a hard-fought game, but the Steelers would come away with a 3-point victory. While the Steelers were kneeling down to end the game, a scuffle broke out. It was the result of all the emotions the Browns were feeling after coming up short yet again against their division foes. Despite another loss, the rivalry was still very much alive. In 2008, the Browns had very high expectations. Some even had them as their Super Bowl pick. As a result of all the expectations, the league scheduled the Browns and Steelers on Sunday Night Football during Week 2. It was a classic low-scoring AFC North battle. The entire country got to witness the Browns-Steelers rivalry. This was actually the last time the Browns have appeared on Sunday Night Football. October 18, 2009. After finishing a measly 4-12 in 2008, a season which included a 31-0 loss at Pittsburgh, the Browns had to put up or shut up in 2009. Unfortunately, they would fall flat on their faces for the first 5 games. And on October 18, 2009, they rolled into Pittsburgh. The Browns were coming off arguably their worst win in franchise history, a game in which they beat Buffalo 6-3, a game in which Derek Anderson would throw for only 23 yards. Leading up to this matchup with the Steelers, there was almost no buzz surrounding it. That was very unusual for a Cleveland-Pittsburgh game. The Steelers would go on to beat the Browns for the 12th consecutive time. With the Browns' inability to beat the Steelers in their numerous losing seasons, it looked like the rivalry was coming to an end. The Steelers and Ravens were looking up, while the Browns appeared to be stuck in reverse. And that's why I say this rivalry died on October 18, 2009. Yes, the Browns did go on to beat the Steelers in their next meeting, but it was buried and forgotten in a season in which the Browns started off 1-11. For Browns fans, it was time to face the music and admit the rivalry was dead. As hard as it is to let go of things we love, it was time to do that with this rivalry. It was time to move on and let the Ravens and Steelers do their thing. The Browns were no longer in the picture. The years went by, and the Browns continued to be recipients of several beatdowns at the hands of the Steelers. What was once a legendary rivalry turned into almost 2 guaranteed wins for the Steelers every year. As a Browns fan, it was tough knowing the Browns had lost before the game even started. It was gut-wrenching to see what was happening to a rivalry that was once too good to be true. It was even tougher watching the Ravens take the place of the Browns in the rivalry, especially when you consider the Ravens were the original Cleveland Browns. All hope seemed lost. However, in 2014 there was a glimmer of hope. The rivalry had a brief resurgence, or so it appeared. In the first meeting, the Browns nearly pulled off a miraculous come-from-behind victory. And in the second meeting, the Browns blew away the Steelers in convincing fashion. This was in the middle of that little run the Browns made with Brian Hoyer. It looked like the rivalry had a chance at being reborn, but a 2-7 start the following season, and a poor performance in their next meeting with the Steelers, all hope was lost. The rivalry was flatlined once again. Several years have gone by now, and it's starting to feel like the rivalry will never come back. What's even sadder is most people under the age of 25 seem to have no idea the Browns and Steelers were ever rivals. How tragic. An entire generation has no recollection of one of the best rivalries in all of sports. As a fan involved with this rivalry, I can tell you there was nothing like a Steelers-Browns game. There was always an aura around it. It just felt special. It felt like a holiday in the truest sense of the word. You just couldn't wait until kickoff. Since the death of this rivalry, the league has tried to prop up other rivalries in the AFC North and make them appear as historical and significant as the Browns-Steelers rivalry. But real football fans know the truth. The Browns-Steelers rivalry reigns supreme. But those days are gone, and maybe for good. And that's the story of the Browns-Steelers rivalry. Now the Browns appear to be heading in the right direction with Baker Mayfield. And maybe he'll be the one to resurrect the rivalry. And wouldn't it be great if he planted a Cleveland Browns flag in the center of Heinz Field? Thanks for watching.